There are days when the world moved forward as usual, clocks ticking, hearts beating, breaths inhaled without thought. But heaven stood still, because something was entering the earth that time itself couldn't explain. Not just a child, but a sign. You were not born by chance. Your arrival was timed with conflict, with alignment, with prophetic urgency. The stars did not twinkle, they watched. The wind didn't blow, it witnessed. You've always known something was off. Not wrong, just off. You looked around at childhood friends and wondered why your laughter echoed different, why their small games bored you, why silence felt safer than fake connection, why the world celebrated noise. But your soul longed for something deeper, something unspoken. You didn't ask to be different, you didn't ask for the weight, but you carried it anyway, quietly. While others chased comfort, you wrestled with questions too heavy for your age. You thought it was a curse, but it was the fingerprint of destiny. And now the clock is circling back to that hour. The same divine hush that hovered over your birth is rising again. Not to deliver you this time, but to commission you. You were born for this hour, born with the sensitivity that others mock, born with the sight that others fear, born with the ache that religion couldn't answer and the world couldn't numb. You are not random. You are not ordinary. You are not late. You've been preserved, hidden, stretched, refined, because what's coming needs a vessel that knows how to carry weight without breaking. And if these words reach you now, it's because your spirit has been waiting for them, searching for them, needing them to finally make sense of why your life never made sense. So the question is not, were you born on a chosen date? The question is, are you ready to remember who you are? If you're still listening and haven't subscribed, then tell me, what voice are you waiting for, if not the one that's calling you by name? Go to the comments and explain why you'd ignore the only message that finally told you the truth. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too far gone. You are not a mistake. You are not a shadow in someone else's story. You are not forgotten by heaven. No matter who forgot you on earth, everything you thought disqualified you has actually marked you. The silence you endured, it trained your ears to hear God when others only hear noise. The rejection you suffered, it taught your heart how to recognize truth by touch, not title. The ache that never left you, that wasn't weakness, that was warfare. A war fought because of what you carry. You don't have to look like the others. You were never supposed to. You don't have to prove your worth. You were born with it. Your story has been filtered through fire, not for destruction, but so it would be unmistakably divine. You are a vessel, but not of gold, or clay, or wood. You are a vessel of fire, a container of holy weight, a carrier of timing, of truth, of thunder. If you were born on these dates, it was for this, not for fame, not for platforms, but for interruption, to interrupt patterns in your bloodline, to interrupt cycles of silence and shame, to interrupt the sleep of a generation. The calendar didn't birth you. Destiny did. You were timed with awakening, and now the hour has come. Not to discover your value, but to unleash it. Because the calling is not in front of you, it's within you. The weight you felt all your life, that was not anxiety, it was inheritance. You are a witness to things this world has forgotten, to things the church stopped preaching, to things your generation still cries for in secret. You are the kind of person God hides until the shaking begins, and now the shaking has begun. So ask yourself this, why now? Why does this message find you here, in this moment, in this frame of time? Because now is when the chosen rise. Now is when the hidden are revealed. Now is when silence breaks into voice, and if you feel your spirit stirring and still haven't subscribed, ask yourself, what fear are you feeding? What comfort are you protecting? Subscribe now or go lament your hesitation in the comment section. Because if you were born on these dates, then everything is about to change. Now that you know who you are, let's talk about what's trying to stop you. Not with chains, not with curses, but with comfort. You think the enemy comes with horns and smoke? No, he comes with claps, applause, recognition. influence that has no oil. You mistake applause for anointing, and that's the first trap. They'll say you're powerful when you're actually distracted. They'll repost your highlights while your altar grows cold. They'll like your words even when heaven can't feel your weight. That's the danger of this hour. The seduction of being seen, but not sent. You don't even notice the rot anymore because it wears perfume, because it holds doors open and smiles in your face. But not every friend is from God. Some are demons dressed in politeness, and you keep them close because they're not doing anything wrong, but they are. They are dulling your edge, feeding your ego, normalizing your decay. They don't confront your sin. They clap for it. And the ones you let into your bed without covenant, they don't steal your purity, they steal your clarity. You wake up confused, heavy, cloudy, not because of guilt, but because your spirit knows you just traded oil for attention. Love without covenant is not intimacy. It's a slow spiritual death that feels like passion. And what about success? Your bank account looks full. Your schedule is booked. But your soul? Dry. You keep achieving things heaven never asked you to build. Success doesn't equal purpose. You've gotten good at ignoring that whisper, the one that used to keep you up at night. Now you scroll. Now you numb. Now you call distraction rest. You don't fight anymore. You just take breaks. But the breaks became months. The months became a pattern. And now you don't remember the last time you felt fire. You used to feel conviction. Now you call it judgment. You used to weep in worship. Now you need perfect lighting and a live band just to lift your hands. You keep calling it peace. But it's really just stagnation dressed in Christian words. You've labeled laziness as self-care, but the kind of care your spirit needs isn't another massage. It's repentance. It's fasting. It's turning off the noise. It's crucifying the flesh until your spirit remembers how to breathe again. You are one of the chosen, and you've been lulled into comfort by a culture that fears commitment and mocks consecration. But you feel it, don't you? Even now. Something in you knows this isn't it. Something deeper is calling. That's because you're not like the others. The trap won't work on you forever. You were marked to wake up, marked to notice the rot, marked to interrupt the numbness with a cry. The world calls it deconstruction. But heaven is looking for deliverance. Deliverance from patterns that dress like progress. Deliverance from influencers who never kneel. Deliverance from watered-down doctrine that pampers your feelings and starves your soul. You are not here by accident, and if these words are cutting you, good. That means you're still alive. So let's ask the hard question. If you can recognize these traps, feel your heart burning, hear your name in this fire, and still scroll away like nothing happened, then go ahead. Tell us in the comments why you'd rather stay asleep. Tell us what comfort is worth your calling. Because chosen ones don't hesitate, they don't delay, they respond. They burn the bridges behind them. They unsubscribe from their own numbness. They step forward, even trembling, because the fire is greater than the fear. So if you know you're one of them, you don't need another sign. You need surrender. Subscribe, not just to the channel, but to the voice that's been calling you back to yourself, back to the cross, back to consecration, back to power. You think it's too late. You think you missed your moment. You think the ship sailed, and you're standing on an empty shore with nothing but memories and regret. But that thought, that lie, is not from God. That's from the same serpent who whispered to Eve, "Did God really say?" Now he whispers to you, "Did God really mean you?" Let me remind you of something eternal. Moses didn't start until he was 80. Caleb was 85 and still asking for mountains. Anna was a widow for decades and never left the temple. Paul wrote half the New Testament after years of silence and scars. God doesn't run out of time. We do. But God redeems it. This isn't your retirement, it's your refinement. Your crown doesn't collect dust. It gets heavier with glory. You keep looking at the calendar as if purpose expires. But the call of God is not milk. It doesn't spoil with time. It ferments, it deepens. It matures until the wine of your life tastes like revelation. And revelation, not relevance, is what this generation needs. We've had enough influencers. We need intercessors. We've had enough performers. We need prophets, not perfect but pierced. Leaders who don't need likes because they have authority. And authority doesn't come from a stage. It comes from scars. If you've walked through betrayal and didn't bow to bitterness, if you've stood in the hallway of delay and still worshipped, if you've lost things, buried dreams, faced silence, and kept your hands lifted, then you don't need a microphone to be powerful. You are the sermon. Let me say this clearly. There are people half your age with twice your platform, but not a drop of your weight. They speak in tongues, but can't carry truth. They dress like leaders, but fold under fire. They quote scripture, but carry no sword, because authority isn't gifted, it's forged. It's made in the furnace, in the loneliness, in the midnight hours when you keep saying yes, even when no one's watching. So don't you dare confuse obscurity with absence. God's silence is not rejection, it's preparation. He hides what he honors. And some of you have been hidden, not because you're forgotten, but because you're dangerous when unveiled too soon. You're not losing relevance, you're gaining revelation. And revelation gives birth to weight, the kind of weight that shifts atmospheres, that walks into a room and demons get nervous, that speaks once and the spirit realm responds. But you've got to stop pretending you're done. You've got to stop dressing like a memory. You've got to stop showing up like a relic from a past revival. You're not a monument. You're still a movement. If your fire hasn't gone out, prove it. Not by shouting louder, but by standing straighter, by praying like it still works, by fasting like something still needs to break, by loving like you're not bitter, by walking like you've seen God in the wilderness and still trust Him in the crowd. If you still feel that flame flickering, don't let it die under the weight of your excuses. Age is not your enemy. Comfort is. The longer you've walked with God, the deeper the well. So stop sipping shallow waters and pretending you're satisfied. You were made to draw from the deep. You've survived too much to sit down now. You've prayed too long to keep silent now. You've paid too high a price to water down the oil you carry. So rise. Don't wait for a platform. Be one. Don't wait for permission. You were already commissioned. Don't wait for applause. You were already approved. You say, but I don't feel young anymore. Good, because youth is no substitute for yielding. Yielded vessels shake kingdoms, and if you're still breathing, you're still dangerous. So let me ask you, straight and without apology, if you see that your fire hasn't gone out, if these words are pulling on your soul, if you feel the Spirit stirring you back to the front lines, then prove it. Hit subscribe, not for me, but as a line in the sand, as a declaration that you're not done, that you still believe, that you still burn, and if not, then go explain in the comments why you're pretending you're finished when God just lit the match. You've been asking God for more, but more always comes with less. Less noise, less access, less applause, less of them, more of Him. And you're starting to feel it, aren't you? That pull, to pull back, not out of fear, but out of obedience. That ache to go deeper, even if it means going alone. Let me tell you plainly, separation isn't punishment, it's preparation. When God sets you apart, it's never for popularity, it's for purity, because the weight of what's coming requires a vessel that's not crowded, but consecrated. You keep asking for clarity, but He's calling for quiet. You think He's gone silent, but no, He's gotten sacred. Silence is not absence, it's invitation, a holy hush before the storm of glory. And if you don't learn how to love the silence, you'll never carry the sound of heaven. You've been called to the fire, not the feast, to the altar, not the algorithm. You weren't chosen to entertain, you were chosen to ignite. And to ignite, you must burn away what dims the flame. So yes, your circle is shrinking, your phone is quieter, your invitations are fewer. That's not rejection, that's heaven's protection. You asked God to anoint you, but you didn't expect Him to answer by isolating you, but that's how it always begins. Before David wore a crown, he was alone with sheep. Before Elijah called fire, he walked the wilderness. Before Jesus launched His ministry, He walked into a desert on purpose. God doesn't anoint crowds, He anoints caves. He anoints secret places. He anoints the ones who've learned to be okay being unknown, because heaven knows their name. So hear this with clarity. If you still crave the approval of the crowd, you're not ready for the weight of the call. The fire you're asking for, it'll burn bridges. It'll end friendships. It'll offend the casual. It'll cost you comfort. But it will mark you with oil, and oil, precious oil, is never poured without protection. So set the boundary. Let your no be holy. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Stop explaining your fast to people who feed on compromise. Stop defending your discipline to those who profit off your distraction. The oil you carry is not for common use, and not everyone deserves access. This is the season where God is calling you to guard what He's given. Not to hide it, but to steward it, to draw the line and say, my time is not for sale, my presence is not for entertainment, my fire is not for casual consumption. So when they ask why you don't go where you used to go, why you don't answer every call, why your table has fewer chairs, you don't owe them anything but obedience. They don't know what it cost you to burn. They don't know what it cost you to still believe. They don't know the oil you paid for with midnight tears and morning prayers. You feel the pull to separate, but you still want to explain yourself to the crowd? You still want them to clap while God's calling you to consecrate? Let me say it clear. There is no revival without refinement. There is no elevation without elimination. There is no fire without fuel being laid on the altar. So choose the altar. Choose the upper room over the banquet table. Choose the secret place over the stage. Choose obedience over optics. Choose oil over popularity. Because the ones who carry glory in this hour will be the ones who weren't afraid to go missing to be found by God. If you feel that pull, that holy discontent, that sacred narrowing of your path, then this is your moment to respond. Not to the crowd, to the call. Subscribe, not because it's trendy, but because it's time to mark the moment. To say out loud, my comfort will no longer be my God, my consecration matters more. And if not, then go to the comments and tell us why your comfort matters more than the consecration that could carry nations. Let me tell you something many have forgotten. The call on your life was never just about you. It was never about comfort. It was never about applause. It was never about this moment. It was always about legacy. Your yes echoes into eternity. And your silence, it does too. The decisions you make now will either light the path for those behind you or leave them to stumble in the dark you refuse to walk through. This isn't about your name being remembered. It's about your obedience becoming someone else's foundation. You're not just living a life. You're laying down a road. And every step you take in obedience paves a way for feet you'll never see, hearts you'll never meet, names you'll never know. But heaven already does. When you pray in secret, when you fast in silence, when you forgive without being asked, when you war in worship when no one claps, you are sowing into a field your grandchildren will reap from. You are not just fighting for victory, you are fighting for inheritance. You're not just surviving delay, you're rewriting what delay means for your bloodline. You're not just enduring hardship, you're removing the excuse from those who would have settled had you not stood. You think this is just another hard season, but heaven sees it as a hinge point for generations. A moment where someone, finally, stood up and said, "The curse stops here. The compromise ends with me." You are the answer to prayers prayed by mouths long buried. You are the breakthrough your lineage didn't know it could believe for. You are the warrior who won't pass the war forward. Don't you see it? You are the sound the next warrior will recognize in their own story. They will say, "I don't know why I can believe like this," but it will be because you believed before them. Your voice, though cracked with weariness and thick with tears, will become the compass for someone else's calling. That's what legacy is. Not fame, not fortune, but faith passed forward, wrapped in obedience, sealed in intercession, and carried by those who come after you. Because you didn't quit when quitting made sense. You may never see the revival you're sowing for, but the ones who live in its fire will do so because you built the altar. So understand this deeply. The call on your life is generational, not seasonal. And the enemy knows it. That's why he's trying to wear you out. That's why the warfare doesn't make sense. That's why the pressure doesn't match your current platform. Because the attack isn't about your now, it's about your next. And your next is not just yours. It belongs to those who will follow your footsteps. So no, you don't get to walk away quietly. You don't get to fold just because you're tired. You don't get to pretend your obedience doesn't matter. Because the moment you stop, someone else will wonder if they should even start. This is why your yes must be loud, not in volume, but in consistency. Because the generation rising behind you does not need more advice. They need examples. They need to see someone like you, bruised, scarred, limping, but still obeying. They don't need you to be strong. They need you to be faithful. Because faithfulness leaves footprints, and footprints lead to legacy. Let me say it clearly, if your obedience could change a generation, why delay? If your worship could shift the atmosphere in a city you'll never visit, why sleep through it? If your yes could break the back of a generational curse, could silence addiction, could awaken destinies in the unborn, why hesitate? You are not too old. You are not too tired. You are not too late. You are right on time for what heaven is doing through your line. And if you don't believe you matter, look at who the enemy keeps targeting. He doesn't attack what he's not afraid of. You carry legacy. You carry fire. You carry future. So make the choice. Draw the line. Speak the yes. Take the step. And burn so the next generation doesn't have to beg for sparks. Subscribe, not because it's trendy, but because it's a banner, a flag in the ground, a declaration that you are not delaying, that you are not disqualifying yourself, that you are not going to let silence be your story's ending. Or go to the comments and explain to a generation waiting for a voice like yours why generational impact doesn't move you enough to act. You are not fading. You are becoming flame. Not the flicker of doubt, not the weak spark of yesterday's dream, but a blaze, unstoppable, unquenchable, unyielding. Let your prayers punch holes in the sky, tear open the heavens with holy defiance, speak until angels lean in to hear your thunder. This is your war cry, not whispered in fear, not shouted from pride, but roared from a place deep inside, where God's fire burns wild and unrelenting. Roar until your final breath, because every breath you take is sacred ammunition. Every word you speak is a weapon. Every step you take shakes the foundations of the enemy's kingdom. Rise up, war fiercely, burn brighter, preach louder. Shake the earth beneath your feet. This is the legacy of the chosen, the ones who don't apologize for their fire, the ones who don't water down their purpose, the ones who walk boldly, knowing the ground they cover is holy ground. You are that chosen one. The altar is ready. The fire is waiting. The enemy trembles at your coming. You have been refined by trial, strengthened by waiting, and empowered by heaven's own hand. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now stand firm, speak life, move mountains, bring heaven to earth. The call is loud. The moment is urgent. The mission is sacred. Will you answer? Will you rise? Will you become the flame that can't be ignored? This isn't content. This is a call. Subscribe to Pope Leo XIV Unveiled if your spirit just stood up inside your body. If not, tell the world why you're okay sitting back while the chosen rise. The earth is shaking. The fire is calling. Will you roar?